Hi there, and welcome to the third video in this All Saints Atlanta virtual choir production process tutorial. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to import and align audio in Logic Pro, getting ready to repair the audio and prep it for editing in Melodyne Studio to actually edit pitch and rhythm. So, for this next step, you will need to open a new Logic Pro project. If you open Logic Pro for the first time, it should take you to the screen. If you already have done something in Logic Pro, it'll open your last project. Just close out of that, go File, New, and it'll get you here. I'm going to double-click Empty Project. I already have something else open. You won't get that, so I'm just going to choose Don't Close. It may be automatically set to software instrument or external MIDI. Choose Audio, and then click Create, and it'll create one new blank audio track for you. Let me make this full screen so that we have a little more real estate. And I'm just going to turn off this count in button because it bugs me to have it on. Now you might be noticing that your layout doesn't look quite the same as mine. The way you get it to look the same as mine is to go to Logic Pro, Preferences, Advanced Tools, and then in here check Show Advanced Tools and choose Enable All, and then that will make sure that everything looks the same way that mine does. You may notice that you don't have this inspector open on the left. You can turn that on and off with this button over here. If you have something open over here, you can close it out by clicking on whichever button is highlighted there. Now, I need to do one thing to make sure that when we start editing, you can still hear. Yep, we are good to go. Okay, so next up, I'm going to drag the backing track that I've exported from Melodyne Standalone and the beat map in. I'm going to do the backing track first, so I'm just going to click and drag. Go over to Logic Pro. It may do this thing where it doesn't want to bring it in the first time. That's okay. Just go back, do it again. And then I'm going to drag it onto this first track that I've already created between the start of measure 1 and the track header over here, and that'll ensure that it starts exactly at the beginning. It'll pull it in. I'm going to do the same thing then with the beat map. So drag it in here. I'm not dragging it onto the same track, though. I'm going to drag it below, which will create a new track for this beat map, and it'll automatically set it to a MIDI instrument. Now, what this is inconsequential, but you'll notice that once you drag it in, the timeline up here on the top automatically changes to whatever your beat map was, and all the tempo shifts that you built in will automatically be imported as well. Now, before we drag the singer's audio in here, there is one thing that is good to double check for before you get going on this, and that's an issue that can sometimes occur. This is the reason why I said always start your beat map with 4/4, but sometimes this happens anyway, and I think on this one it's probably about to. So if you click these three dots with the three lines on the top right, go over to Signature, and yep, here it is. You'll see that there is a hanging time signature kind of ahead of the key signature, and that's not what we want. We don't want that. So the way to fix this, to avoid it causing any issues with Melodyne, drag your playhead to the very beginning of the song over here, and then hit this plus button, and enter 4/4, because it needs to match whatever you have, and that will move that time signature below the key signature. To get rid of this then, just click that three dots and three lines, and you are good to go. Now, I no longer need this track here with the beat map on it, so I'm going to hit Command, hold Command, and push Delete. That'll ask me to confirm. Click Delete. It's gone. Great. Now I'm going to drag the singer's audio in. So I'm going to go to the folder where I have their stuff, select all, click and drag. And now I'm going to drag it, same thing, between measure 1 and the track header, and I want it to create new tracks. That'll ensure that I have one track per audio file. You'll have to convert them and pull them in. Now, we need to do two things. Number one, I'm going to rearrange them so that they're S, A, T, B over here, because it'll be in alphabetical order, A, B, S, T. So I need to redo that. And then I'm going to have to drag all of them to where they kind of generally start right where the backing track starts. And this is one of those things that you can save some time on. If before you export to Soundtrap, or before you load your backing track into Soundtrap, if you build that beat map first and you use that audio that you export from Melodyne Standalone, that'll save you a step here. But again, I don't really have the time to do that before the singers need to go in and record, so we don't do that in our process. So now I'm going to click the first soprano, not necessarily soprano 1, but just whoever's on the top. Hold Shift, click the last one, drag them up to the top, Do the same thing to get the basses to the bottom. Click, hold shift, click, drag to the bottom. There we go. Now I'm going to reorder everybody in the section. And the way that I'm doing this is not necessarily by who is the best singer or anything, or who has the highest quality audio. I'm reordering them based on whose audio is the easiest for Melodyne to interpret, analyze, and then to allow me to edit. So whoever's going to be fastest to edit is going to be at the top of their section. And for, in this case, that's going to be Caroline for the sopranos. And then I'm going to drag them from fastest to least fast. Greer just has a little more vibrancy in her voice, and sometimes Melodyne gets tricked by that, and it takes a little bit longer to edit her audio, so I'm dragging her to the end. Samantha will be the quickest for the altos, drag her to the top. And then Ryan K, click and drag to the top of the tenors. Basses are already in the right order for this. And then we are good to start alignment. So the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to choose my most accurate, rhythmically accurate singer, which tends to be Caroline as well. So I'm going to click and drag a box now around all of their audio. So that's selecting everybody's. And then I'm going to click this S button on Caroline's track to solo. That means I'm going to hear only her audio, right? So now I need to drag the start of her audio after the silence that comes after this play-in right here, and you can visually see that. There's some audio right here, some silence, and then the organ starts again. So that's where my voices need to come in. I'm going to click and drag to the right. You'll notice it's not dragging smoothly. To get it to drag smoothly, I need to turn off snap. It's set to smart right now, not actually what we want for our purposes here. So let me drag it over to the right, get it lined up with the start of that playhead, and I'm going to scroll over so I can see everybody. I'm leaving everybody selected. Notice I'm dragging everybody's audio at once to align it to the most rhythmically accurate singer. Now I'm going to drag, I'm going to turn on the cycler by clicking up here above the ruler and dragging to the right, just to capture a few phrases in that cycler there. And I'm going to hit the space bar.
Sing praise to God who reigns above.
And now I need to click on. So I'm going to click the metronome up here.
Sing praise to God.
You'll notice she's a little bit ahead. So I'm actually going to watch the title of her track over here. And that, I found, is the easiest way to tell how much you're dragging her by. So I'm going to move a little bit to the right. Probably about that much.
Sing praise to God.
Might have been a little too much. Go back a teeny bit. There we go.
Sing praise to God who reigns above, the God of all creation, the God of power.
Actually, she may still be a tiny bit ahead. And now I'm not listening to every individual note here. I'm kind of listening globally, because you don't, I mean, there's always going to be a few notes in everybody's track where they rush maybe a tiny bit, or they're a little bit behind compared to what your beat map is set to. So I'm listening globally to see if it's consistently ahead or consistently behind and needs to be adjusted like that. I'll fix those little discrepancies later in Melodyne.
Sing praise to God who reigns above, the God of all creation, the God of power, the God of love.
She might be behind. Try.
Sing praise to God who reigns above, the God of all creation.
I think that's about right. We may actually be right back where we started. I don't know. But I'm dragging everybody's again, notice. Now, after I do that, I need to click into blank space down here to deselect everybody. And then I'm going to solo the next singer with Caroline. And I'm going to align the next singer to Caroline plus the click by just hitting spacebar.
Sing praise to God who reigns up.
So she's a little bit behind Caroline. I'm going to click on her track and drag very slightly to the left.
Sing praise to God who reigns above, the God of all creation, the God of...
She might be a teeny bit behind still.
Sing praise to God who reigns above, the God of all creation.
a few notes that are maybe right in here that are a little bit
Sing
behind.
praise to God who reigns above the God.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. Now, notice I'm not aligning to the first note. Actually, the first note is often the least together, as exemplified by what you can see visually right here. Notice audio starts here, but on Greer's, audio starts a little bit early. She just came in a little bit early accidentally. We can fix that later, not a huge deal. But what I'm not going to worry about is aligning the start of her audio to the start of this audio up here. Otherwise, it's going to globally throw everything else off by a lot later on, and you're going to spend a lot of time trying to fix that in Melodyne.
Sing praise to God who reigns above.
I think she's a teeny bit behind.
Sing praise to God who reigns above.
You'll also notice her audio is peaking quite a bit. We'll worry about that in the next video. I'm not super concerned with that right now.
Sing praise to God who reigns above, the God of...
That's pretty good. And so I'm going to go through the rest of these following that exact same process. Let me show you one of the tenor bass.
Sing praise to God.
He's behind. There we go.
Sing praise to God who reigns above.
So really what I'm doing here is I'm correcting for internet speed discrepancies, right? Sometimes when you're tracking, when the singers are tracking in Soundtrap, their internet speed is going to have an impact on whether they're globally ahead or behind, where your kind of rock-solid singer is at. So I may have to drag a little bit right or a little bit left, and that'll be correcting those issues.
Sing praise to God who reigns above.
So there we go. That's aligned. So I'm going to go through each of these tracks and edit all the way through. And just like any good baking show, I have already done that. Or maybe I haven't. Hopefully this is it. No, this is not the one. I'm not going to save that. May open just a sec. Here it is. Oh, I already have it open right here. There it is. Found it. So you'll want to spend quite a bit of time on this, actually, in making sure that everybody's aligned as best as possible. And this will save you a lot of time later. The last step that I did in this process is just to kind of bring everybody's volume down a little bit, because you'll notice if I just hit play here, they're very loud, and you can barely hear the backing track. So I click the first singer, click the hold shift, click the last singer, drag them back to probably around -9, -10, and then I'm aiming for at the very bottom of the yellow. So I'm going to click into blank space to deselect everybody, click on one track to deselect all of the track headers, hit X, and that'll open our mixer view. And then I'm going to pull down singers that are a little bit too loud and pull up some singers that are maybe a little bit too quiet. And there we go. By the end of that process, it should look, similar to something like this. And at that point, we are ready to do audio repair. So that brings us to the end of this segment. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to repair audio using RX8 spectral denoise and declip, and prep it for editing of pitch and rhythm in Melodyne Studio. Thanks for watching.